What's going on? What's going on, guys? We're live. Sorry for the delay. Setting up this beautiful shot we have here with Mike Kadlick and Tayler Kyles out at Gillette Stadium. Patriots fall. Another competitive game, 23-20. Some stuff to like. Some stuff was rough. We're going to go over all of it, and we'll let these guys talk about what they saw and what they heard as they just got out of the locker room. And again, the Patriots fall 23-20 in a very winnable game. To the Seahawks, fall to 1-1. So a tough outcome here. I think the headlines here as we go forward, guys, are certainly going to be offensive line, both in terms of what happened this week and what happened today with another injury, and just the overall just inability to really protect, and the just no juice in the passing game right now that we can see through two games. You know, Patriots have to play a near perfect game. They did not today. There were some letdowns on defense and some execution issues, a blocked field goal, some penalties. And again, their margin for error is really, really, really thin. And that's why we are where we are here with these guys. So we'll get your thoughts here real quick before we get started. Let everybody know at home, the show and all of our Patriots coverage is presented by Prize Picks, America's #1 DFS app. Use that code CLNS when you sign up, and please do sign up. All new users, you sign up, you play 5, you get 50 instantly when you do that. And of course, there is Game Time, an authorized ticket marketplace. All you have to do is download that Game Time app. Again, code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase, terms to apply. Pearl Jam, still got time. Get after it tonight.
Where's
Fenway
that one?
Park.
Oh,
Get
tonight
going.
at Fenway? All right.
Tonight at Fenway. And then again on Tuesday, you can get in there. Pats, Jets, you want to make the trip to the Meadowlands, all of these guys will. But again, check out Game Time. It's pretty good seats available for this one, the Patriots home opener, which they lost. Foxboro has not been a fun place to play lately, guys. I'll kind of start with you just in your overall thought. Your takeaway, your headline from this game is what?
You want it?
You can go first.
All right.
I know you got something.
I do have something. My headline from this game, John, is the fact that the Patriots defensive backfield wasn't great today. I mean, yes, Christian Gonzalez, it did look like him and Kyle Duggar blew that coverage on the long DK Metcalf touchdown. We later learned just in the locker room now, Kyle Duggar did take responsibility on trying to pass that off. They end up in no man's land. DK ends up, 56 yards for a touchdown. But later on, Marco Wilson wasn't good. We kept looking for Jonathan Jones on the sideline. They were moving those guys in and out. It probably should have been Jonathan Jones in that position for most of the game. And then there's the defensive pass interference in the end zone over here from Marco Wilson on Tyler Lockett. That leads to a touchdown. Later on, in overtime, Jonathan Jones, another defensive pass interference, again on Tyler Lockett. That leads to the game-winning field goal. So, point being, the run defense was really good. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But you think that this Seattle team, much like the Patriots, they want to win these games running the ball first and only having to rely on their passing game if they have to. Run defense plays well. They only let up 2 yards a carry. So you rely on the pass defense, and they weren't great. They didn't do it. They let Geno complete 75% of his passes for over 300 yards, the touchdown, and they end up winning the game 23-20. So my takeaway right now is, although Christian Gonzalez looked really good and continues to look good against these top-flight wide receivers, the rest of the guys around him need to be better in order to try and win these games.
Yeah, and there were even some missed opportunities for the Seahawks in the passing game. I think they had, 4 or 5 drop passes, and I feel like almost all of those could have gone for conversions. I did think Christian Gonzalez played well, all things considered. But while in this game, I think the headline, because the reason they lost is they gifted the Seattle Seahawks 2 touchdowns. If we came into this game knowing that they were going to do that, you'd probably predicted a loss for the Patriots because they just aren't built to play that way. But long term, I think the biggest thing is this passing game, because for whatever reason, Demario Douglas did not touch the ball. Jalen Polk only had a few touches. Now, obviously, the touchdown was huge, but those are two guys.
From Jacoby on
what a throw. And also good job by Polk on the play.
Yeah.
To settle into zone coverage. Sometimes, like you saw with Zay Flowers in the opener that they had against the Chiefs, where it's a play where he's in the end zone, finds space, he keeps running, and then obviously there's a misconnection between him and Lamar Jackson. So great job by Jalen Polk having awareness and slowing down to make himself available for his quarterback. But then obviously Hunter Henry has a great day, and we have to acknowledge that is a big reason why the Patriots wide receivers weren't as productive. But even still, like, how many times did Jacoby Brissett have to go to Hunter Henry after extending the play? I did know going into this game, if you looked at my timeline, I highlighted that when Jacoby last played Mike McDonald's defense, a lot of it was just peppering his tight ends on short throws over the middle against zone coverages, and that was where they needed to live. But it was really odd that you didn't see Demario Douglas get any screens, any type of design touches at the very least, a week after the offense told, or the same week that Gerard Mayo and Alex Van Pelt told us they were going to get Jalen Polk and Demario Douglas more involved because they were open consistently last week. Now, I did notice it was kind of odd. Devin Witherspoon, I liked the matchup with Pop Douglas because I thought Pop could beat him in a phone booth and then maybe take the top off a few times. Witherspoon, every time I looked at the matchup, was playing way off of Pop. So I think that the Seahawks had an idea that that was probably where they could maybe have some success for the Patriots and didn't want to give those opportunities. But with Pop having so much space, I don't understand why you didn't at least try to give him opportunities to make plays with the ball in his hands. Like, this is a West Coast offense. That's the whole personality of the West Coast, is obviously have a complementary pass and run game, but let your receivers make plays with the ball in their hands. So again, this game, the defense, I think, is the biggest reason they lost. Obviously, the blocked field goal as well. When you have a big special teams play, it sucks the air out of the room. Devon Godshaw acknowledged that when that field goal block happened, it really was a momentum swing there. But long term, Gerard Mayo also acknowledged you got to get more out of your passing attack, because we don't think this is going to be, 300 yards a game kind of passing offense. But we said before the game, you need to be complimentary. I don't think the Patriots did that today.
Well, okay, so guys, I will jump in, and I get it, but like, what are we talking about? 300 yards a game passing? Are we going to be? Is this going to be 150 yards a game passing team? Because it hasn't hit that yet. And look, there's a series of reasons why, and it starts with the O-line, and that's what's going to be the issue. No matter who is playing quarterback, okay, that O-line is going to be a problem, and I don't even know if you have a fair shot to find anybody, open downfield, whether or not they're open, as it was the case last year and some of the film studies showed, and even Gerard Mayo kind of defensively said. But I'm going to throw some stats out here. 6 3-and-outs, in the second half, including overtime, okay? Demario Douglas, 3 targets through 2 games with 0 today.
Yeah, that's inexcusable.
That's bad. Wide receivers,
3 targets in 2 games.
Patriots wide receivers today, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 19 yards. The Patriots passing offense,
and a touchdown.
32 total passing yards in the second half in overtime. No, it doesn't work like this. So I go, the defense, and you guys are doing, you're pointing out some of the things the defense did today that contributed to today's loss. But if you have a passable offense, you can get away with that. Yeah, there was a miscommunication on the Metcalf, touchdown, special teams miscue there, which honestly, I'm going to put that as much on the Jacoby sack that he took, on third down to push them into that field goal, the longer field. I'm not putting it all on him. I'm saying the offense took that one. But ultimately, the offense is the problem right now. Probably was the problem last week, but their defense was phenomenal, and Cincinnati didn't look like they were ready to play. It's going to continue to be the offense, and I don't know how it gets better, because this isn't an O-line that's going to gel. In fact, as my concern was throughout the year, you're more likely to get worse than better if you suffer an injury somewhere, because you're so thin. The replacement level guys coming in, you already have people playing out of position. So it's kind of a really almost a borderline untenable situation given how bad that O-line is. And you have a quarterback who's not going to press the ball downfield and not going to make plays and not do stuff that's off platform. It's going to be limited. I can't see a way out for this offense right now. That's the thing, is it's kind of grim, because I don't know how it gets better.
I mean, they definitely need an answer or a tackle somehow, some way, because right now,
and
again,
I don't know how you can. That's the thing, is you need tackles. You're not going to get tackles. That's the point. It's right. It's their tackles aren't.
Welcome to the NFL.
Right.
It is. It's a welcome to the NFL moment, but it's also like I guess it goes back to the offseason, right? They tried to do what they wanted to do. We thought Okorafor could make something work. Obviously, that does not happen. Vidarian Lowe is their starter. You think Okorafor might be the backup. Then it flips. Okorafor gets the starting job when Vidarian Lowe gets hurt. Then he gets benched. Then he doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to be here anymore. So you lose one guy that way. Then Lowe comes in hurt for Okorafor, plays okay last week. I thought today he played okay as well for the most part.
The
and then
sack he gave up wasn't even his fault.
Right.
That was he was fine, and Michael Jordan tried to give him chip help. Boy, Mafi got right around him because it gave him extra momentum. So I just wanted to point that out.
Of course. But depth-wise, then he gets hurt. Then you have to rely on Caden Wallace to come in as a rookie to try and be your starting left tackle in week 3. So, again, the depth there, and even, too, like, yes, I give Vidarian Lowe credit, but we're talking about Vidarian Lowe and Chuk Okorafor here. These aren't all-star caliber, Pro Bowl caliber players. They're going to need to address the position more eventually, but right now, there's really just no way to do it because, again, like you said, welcome to the NFL. There's not a lot of tackles out there. They tried to claim guys in Jacobs and Zach Thomas, but those guys aren't going to be the answers either. Those were depth pieces. Those are depth pieces when, for lack of a better word, shit hits the fan, and now they're in this position in week 3, and they're already Zach Thomas is already.
And let's also be very real here. I know that we like to throw Vidarian Lowe under the bus. I know we like to throw.
Yeah, before this started, the shit was already smeared all over the fan. It didn't hit it, okay, with the O-line. You knew this was going to be tough. So, again, you're going to have to work through it, and they're doing that by trying to be more of a running team and out-physical the other guys. And, again, they're able to do that successfully. It's really if that passing offense can possibly turn around given the personnel limitations they have. And, Taylor, sorry to jump in there, but this isn't a new problem. I mean, you knew this problem.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we like to use Vidarian Lowe as the lightning rod here, but frankly, I didn't notice him in a bad way very often. I noticed Mike Nwenu get beat 2 or 3 times pretty badly. So I know we like to talk about all the, the other ways that the tackles they brought in haven't worked out. But Nwenu didn't have a great game either. That sack that you're talking about for Jacoby Brissett, I don't understand why he's getting crap for taking that, because Layden Robinson got beat inside while Nwenu got beat. There was nowhere for Jacoby to go. So I think it's less on one guy just tackle. Everybody needs to play better. Like I said, Michael Jordan is responsible for a sack. Layden Robinson is responsible for a sack. Mike Nwenu got beat enough times that you're saying, I was like, man, it would gotta be nice if you had the option to put Chooks out there on the right side where he is comfortable. So, I mean, the reality is it is the NFL. Most people have issues on the offensive line because it's a position of attrition. Not a lot of units make it through the entire season without losing somebody crucial. Obviously, the Patriots started behind the 8 ball because they already had tackle problems. But the best case scenario for this unit was Vidarian Lowe just being fine. Then in the interior, you have City So and Layden Robinson building week to week and giving you a good pocket. And then if you have to have Mike Nwenu at tackle, as long as he survives, you're fine. I thought everybody contributed to this performance. And another reason why you need to get Pop more involved, because you can get the ball out of your quarterback's hands and let the receivers do some of the work so that the offensive line isn't being put in a bad position where, like, one of the reps that I think it was Michael Jordan lost a sack. He gave up one-on-one, and I put in my game plan, you cannot let Leonard Williams get a one-on-one matchup. But to do that, you had to stay out of obvious passing situations. The Seahawks used a rush front, created a one-on-one with one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league against a guy who's frankly right now on the Patriots practice squad. Really smart by Seattle, but there's so many things to go into that. But schematically, you need to give your tackles and your offensive line a bit more help. And I wish they had done that on early downs by trying to get more by just getting the ball.
100%. There are times where you can scheme around a poor offensive line play, right? There was a time where you looked at me, you're like, nobody's covering Pop right now. There's a 10-yard cushion right there. Grab the football and throw it to him and see what happens. He's your best offensive player.
They have RPOs. Like, they're running them. They're just not throwing the screen options.
So I just don't understand why you won't even try and do something like that. Again, the 3 targets across 2 games for him is inexcusable. And same with like Jalen Polk. I thought he looked good to start the day. The touchdown on the 5-yard, that 5-yard in route, obviously, but then nothing after that. It's like the receivers are the problem. I obviously the offensive line is a problem too, but you can scheme yourself out of that, and they just almost haven't tried to do it yet. They continue to drop Jacoby back, make him try and make these reads. Those guys aren't getting open downfield, so he either has to make something out of nothing, dump it to a tight end, dump it to a running back, etc. It doesn't look right now.
And also, one more thing I'll add: everybody loves to pile on Jacoby, and we want Drake. I like Drake too. I cannot confidently say he would have avoided as many sacks as Jacoby Brissett did. He was incredible today when it came to getting out of what should have been, like, I think the past 2 weeks, he probably should have been sacked like 10 to 12 times. We're being very honest. His ability to get out of those, extend the play, it didn't always work, but we got to give a hat tip to Jacoby Brissett. He was balling as best as he could out here. Obviously, you want to see him throw downfield more, and I got to look at the tape and see how much that was on him and how much was on the scheme. But, like, we need to give that guy credit because he's really masking a lot of the offensive line's issues right now.
That's a very nice transition to where I'm going to go next. And I don't want this to sound like it's agenda based, because it's not. I have been Team Maye from the get-go, but I will ask this question. I will ask this now. I agree 100%. I thought Jacoby made that made a bunch of like really good plays stepping out of pressure and avoiding.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, I was trying to describe that when he backpedaled and hit Hunter Henry coming back on that pass play as that
should have been a touchdown, by the way. Oh my God. That could have been a touchdown.
But then, just a couple times being able to just kind of feel it, move laterally, kind of get out there and this and that. That's fine. I think he did a good job of staying alive, which is fine. It's good for Jacoby, but it's not necessarily great for the offense in the sense that, well, it wasn't the worst thing that could have happened, but did anything great happen off of it? Yeah, in a couple of cases, it kept drives alive and it led to a couple of decent touchdown drives. That's fine. So I'm going to give Jacoby his flowers. I thought, given his limitations physically and who he is as a passer and as a player, he did great. Also with the line doing what it was doing, he did great for Jacoby. My question is, we've been talking about one of the reasons, and again, the goalpost has been moved on why Maye isn't playing. He's not. Jacoby won the competition. No weight. The offensive line is going to get him killed. Well, he needs more seasoning. This has always been part of the plan. I don't know what it actually is, but I will say this. Is it possible that given how receivers, whether they can or can't separate, again, the tape will show what went on today, but you don't have super dynamic receivers and you don't have an offensive line that can protect for long. Would a quarterback with Drake Maye's improvisational skill set, even if it's unrefined, be better suited for this offense? Because this might be it. You might need a guy who's just dancing a little bit, moving, generating stuff with his legs, rather than just surviving the pressure, stepping up and running for 15 to 20 yards when it's coming, or being able to scramble around long enough for receivers to break off their routes where they were covered initially and maybe get open into space. Is that kind of chaos better to jumpstart the offense, even if you're going to live with some mistakes, because he's not the same type of professional quarterback who's experienced and has seen a lot as Jacoby Brissett has?
So this goes back to the entire conversation of whether or not you should play Drake Maye, and Gerard Mayo saying, we are not going to basically sacrifice the short term for Drake's long-term development. Could Drake have had a couple 25-yard runs, maybe exploited some downfield windows that may or may not have been available? Sure. Maybe that wins you this game. If I had to watch Drake Maye get pressured the way Jacoby Brissett has been pressured in the past 2 weeks, I would have lost my GD mind. I would have freaked out, and we would all be talking about how the Patriots are being irresponsible by putting him in a position to develop bad habits behind an offensive line that does not give him time. Yeah, I'm sure Drake Maye probably is able to maybe pull out a win. I'm not sure, obviously, but I'm saying, even if you want to say, yeah, Drake Maye gets them a win this week, a win for what? A win so they maybe get a wild card spot and then lose in the first round? I don't care about that. I really don't. If they don't think Drake Maye is ready to be on the field, I don't want to see him on the field. And from what we're seeing right now, there is no way in hell they are seriously considering putting Drake Maye in there, especially if Darian Lowe misses extensive time.
I agree. This is helicopter parenting, I want to say, by the way. This is football. And you
helicopter parenting, and you say that, but then the oldest kid is on the street living under a bridge. You know what I'm saying?
Do understand.
What are you talking about?
We do understand. But somewhere in America this weekend, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels will be running for their lives behind shitty offensive lines, trying to make stuff happen improvisationally. This is kind of the life.
Yeah, that sucks.
This is the life of a rookie. That's how it goes.
But we always want to talk about Drake Maye in the CJ Stroud debate. CJ Stroud had an amazing situation where a lot of his success came off of play action and his offensive coordinator putting him in those positions, but also the incredible depth the Texans had last year where they kept losing offensive linemen and still got good play out of guys, and they have 5 quality wide receivers. That's the guy that we talk about when it's, yes, that's the situation you want to put a young quarterback in. Go back to Dak Prescott, where he had a great situation because he had an amazing skill position around him, great offensive line. You don't want to be Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels where you're having to survive and Jaden Daniels having to lead the game.
Slipped a little bit. My question was, might they be better given the chaos? Because right now, one of the Jacoby arguments was well, he gives them a better chance now and it's going to be ugly with Maye. Plus the offensive line is bad. Plus he's still developing. Plus Jacoby beat him. You're telling me this quarterback play is better than what you could get anywhere else? What are we doing? Are you protecting? Are you protecting Drake Maye's fragile psyche and afraid he's going to get hurt playing football?
I don't think it's a psyche thing. I don't think it's the helicopter babying quarterback thing that you think it is, John. I think it's simply they don't think he's ready to play yet. That's why they're putting this on him slowly. The 30% stuff in practice. He's getting 30% of the reps, and he's splitting it up with Jacoby, which we argued maybe it's not right for Jacoby to only be getting 70% of it, and they should actually dial that back a little bit if that's going to be your quarterback, because they are kind of, like you said, over on both sides of the fence with it here, right? But I still think that you go in, yeah.
Real quick, you're right, but development aside, if there's a plan,
but why put development aside? You can't just put development aside.
No. Listen,
that is the reason why we're here.
The development, you guys don't have the playbook on development, which says sit him 6 games and now he's developed. There's no right or wrong here. He could be developing playing. Nobody has the answer, so let's stop pretending any of us do. We don't actually know. We don't actually know if playing him is bad or good. We don't. What I'll ask is how much more of this passing offense is tolerable the way it is now before you look at it and say, let's give the kid a shot. That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking now. We all have our different opinions on whether they should or shouldn't. I'm asking, at what point do you look at it and be like, we got to do something? Like, a lot of times rookie quarterbacks start for that reason, not because teams deemed them ready. The ones who are on the benches, time to see if we can give it a jolt here. How many 150-yard passing games do you go through before you try for that ugly, imperfect, messy jolt that the young quarterback would give you?
To me, it ends up being the answer is the win in the loss column, right? Because they won week 1 despite it. And this is how we want to play. If we can get another win, like they almost did on the field behind us, then it buys them more time to baby him, if you will, if you want to call it that, and to continue to give him slowly the reps. But if it continues like this and you keep losing like you just did today, then it speeds up that process. It's okay, let's see it get ugly, because now we have the losses. We're going to lose 2, 3, 4 games in the standings type thing where, okay, now the wins and losses don't really matter. So let's just see what happens with this kid. Not just see what happens aimlessly and irresponsibly, but at a point where, okay, maybe it's not going to be perfect, but at least let's try and see what it looks like in a real game action, because the coaches continue to say, you don't learn football unless you play football.
And I know that this is a reaction show, but this feels super reactionary in a way that makes my tummy kind of feel rum because I think that the plan for Drake Maye, it might have been the second lobster roll, I'm not going to lie. But honestly, the plan for Drake Maye, it feels like it's pretty simple. If Jacoby Brissett is playing well and Drake Maye is not ready, Jacoby will keep playing. If Jacoby is playing poorly and Drake Maye is still not ready, you're just going to have to bite it.
We don't know that. We do not know that. We are guessing that.
From my perspective, yes, it's my guess. This is Tay's guess. I'm saying if Jacoby Brissett is playing poorly and Drake Maye is still not ready, you don't throw him out there. We have gotten no indication. Everything that we've heard from this team is that they're not going to throw him in there if they don't think he's ready. If Drake Maye is playing well in practice, and it's like what we've been talking about for months, where at some point the defense is going to be like, damn, this kid is really like carving us up. If we're having trouble facing him and we're one of the best defenses in the league, yeah, he should probably be playing and then start learning on the field. I think when Jacoby starts playing poorly continuously and it starts to become week after week, and then Drake Maye in practice is doing enough, that's when he plays. But I don't think that there's any level of suck you could see from Jacoby that will get this team to throw Drake Maye into the fire if they're in practice and they're like, I don't think he's ready yet, because if this organization's entire legacy is tethered to him. Drake, Alex Van Pelt, Gerard Mayo, Elliot Wolf all know if Drake Maye is destroyed and they get him hit all the time and, he starts getting in his head, maybe I don't think he's sensitive. I don't think he's fragile. I think he's tough, but it doesn't matter. Drew Bledsoe was as tough as they came until he got the shit kicked out of him for years and didn't want to step up in the pocket anymore. They know that if that happens to Drake, they're all getting canned.
And they are scarred by them.
That's great. So I will ask.
They want to be extra careful.
And they know that this year is not going to get them fired. The next 2 years will get them fired if they don't.
I get it. But we do understand also, right, that no matter how ready he gets in practice or how ready they think he is after getting his 30% of his snaps or whatever's going on right now, he's going to go in eventually at some point behind this O-line with these receivers and get his first NFL action and be absolutely lost, clueless, face a ton of pressure, and fall into bad habits. The same thing's going to happen week 5 as would happen week 2 or week 3. So no matter what,
City So's hurt, by the way, just so you know. Yeah. City So is not playing. It's not going to be the same line.
It's going to be messy.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because this is that trial run where, okay, you lose Chooks, you lose Lowe, and it's not pretty, and it might get worse. But if it does continue to get worse, then maybe you don't play Maye. Then maybe you say, okay, this isn't ready this year. It's not ready right now.
That would be bad.
It would be bad. I don't disagree with that. If you can't get your offensive line figured out for by week 17 and you can't play your quarterback, not because he's not ready, but because the rest of your team isn't ready, I agree that that's a bad look. However, this is still that extension of the preseason. This is still a trial run to try and see what's the best opportunity to finally give this guy a decent landing spot to go out there and play. So I hate to say let's give him more time because we're doing a show right now and that's the point to react here. But I don't think there has to be necessarily a panic button for quarterback play yet. I think quarterback play and the ability to go get 15 yards instead of 5 yards or find Hunter Henry instead of scrambling for 20 or something. I don't think that's the problem right now. I still think it's everything outside of the position that has the Patriots scoring 16 and then 20 points a game.
It's not the biggest problem, as we said right now. Again, look, you went X amount of years neglecting very important positions, and that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing no tackles. You're seeing a guard playing tackle and having not a great game, as Tayler mentioned today with excuse me, sorry about that.
I can cut in real quick because I do have a little thought. So with the offensive line, I don't think
and you ignored receiver. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay. But with the offensive line, I don't think it's fair to say that they're going to get worse definitively when we've seen Vidarian Lowe look like a completely different player than he looked like this time last year. Layden Robinson going from a guy who we weren't even thinking about starting week 1 to being someone who, he's up and down, but is showing plenty of good tape where you would expect week after week, okay, you lost on this, get better at this. I didn't notice any line games or anything giving him problems. We didn't see any crazy unblocked pressures, obviously very quick pressures, but I think that we did see him get better. Then David Andrews, Mike Nwenu, this was a bad game for him. He's one of your best players. You hope he gets better, but I think it's disingenuous to say that the offensive line is going to get worse when Sidney So's not even in the lineup. Like, if he's healthy and he can get in the mix, and then kind of like Layden Robinson be able to build in this strike system, in this Scott Peters system, that again has shown tangible results. Like, you cannot tell me that the guys on this offensive line aren't playing better than they were at the beginning of the spring when I think we all were much more worried.
I agree with
but I'm just saying, like, for my take, I think it's fair to think that they can improve. I'm not guaranteeing they will, but if health is on their side, they get guys back.
The tackle depth is definitely going to be an issue.
The tackles,
for sure.
The tackles are going to be a continued problem. There's no question about that. So that's the problem. And then I said, should you suffer injuries, which happens in football, you're going in the wrong direction. I don't think the play is going to get worse. All I'm saying is this is not all of a sudden going to turn into a line you feel great about simply because you don't have them. You have the guys on the outside that you want to have on the outside, and you don't really have any depth there. Certainly, guys can get better, and they like their rookies, and they like City So if he comes back, it's not going to be awful. I think they'll be able to run the ball. I'm saying, are they going to be able to protect long enough to be able to generate any sort of passing game, or is this just going to be how it's going to be? And how long are you going to kind of sit on, well, it's a passing league, but we've got to be a running team because this is what we've chosen to do. And at what point do you decide, let's try to be something different if you can or can't? At one point or another, you're going to do it. It's just a matter of when, but you're 100% right. The story of today's game is not, you got to get Jacoby out of there and give the kid a shot. I'm just looking at all the limitations this team has and wonder at what point you're like, this isn't going to be anything really. So all we're doing is just kind of waiting out the clock. Because I don't think with what we have now, we're going to be able to generate anything, certainly on the passing side of the ball. Let's flip it off of this. I want to talk about, we talked about how good the coaches did in game 1. I want to get your perspective on the coaching today, the play calling, whether or not you thought things were as clean this time around. But first, we do want to tell everybody at home again about our lovely sponsor here, and that is Prize Picks. And again, every week we're making picks. Kadlick's making picks. Kyles is making picks. All our football experts. You can too, and you can play along with these guys when you go and you sign up right here. $5 gets you 50. Use that code CLNS when you do. All you have to do, pick 2 to 6 players, pick more or less on a particular stat, and you are off and running. Tons of fun, great deals. Constant stuff being put up there in addition to the great deal that you have here when you sign up with that CLNS promo code. Flex Friday, Taco Tuesdays, a lot of cool stuff. And obviously it's not just NFL, even though that's what we're here for. WNBA, what have you. You're going to have multiple leagues starting up here as well with the NBA and the NHL not too far around the corner. So make sure you check that out. And we mentioned, of course, Game Time. You want to get in on Game Time. You want to get in to see your favorite events, be it sports or concerts. As we mentioned, Pearl Jam. I don't know. I'm kind of curious what we have going on right now. It could be. I might go.
Maybe have a little fun.
I may go right after this show. I'm not kidding. I'm going to go right after this show. I'm going to Pearl Jam tonight.
What's the get-in price right now?
Game Time app.
Yeah.
Download it, create the account, use that code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Once again, download that Game Time app. Check it out. Great panoramic views from your seats when you select them. Prices go down the closer you get to the start of your show or the start of your game. So make sure you do check it out. Once again, download that Game Time app. Create an account today. Ahmed, I don't know which box this is.
$41.
I found it.
$41 for Pearl Jam on Game Time right now.
I'm going.
6:30. We don't have time.
It's coming.
All right, we got to wrap
But
this
if
up.
you're at home, well, don't leave the show. Grab your phone, put the show on, get in your car.
No, you guys stay. Everybody stay.
Yeah, we're staying. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, no, you guys got to stay. So what did we think here? And again,
if we want to quickly look at that prospects lineup that I did today, unfortunately, John, because the Patriots' pass defense wasn't good, and they continued to allow Geno Smith to get there and get 300 yards. He also did have less than 32.5 passing attempts, which I had on prize picks. Jalen Polk starts the game, 5-yard receiving touchdown. I had him to have more than 17.5 receiving yards. That didn't happen.
Tell him about DK.
And DK Metcalf, Taylor's pick, he wanted him to have less than 21.5 yards on his longest reception. It looked okay until that coverage rush for the touchdown. So no good.
Thanks,
no
Doug.
dice. But
Just kidding.
We're coming back later. We're coming back tonight. We'll have a Sunday Night Football prize picks lineup for you. Make sure you go to there, use the code, and we'll try and hit next week's for the Patriots as well.
Yeah. How do you think these guys did on the play? Like, again, it's hard to say until you kind of look at everything here. But again, it all comes down to the limitations. Line can't block. Receivers aren't, Jacoby's not pressing it downfield. You are a little bit limited with what you're doing. Do you want to see a little bit more creativity here, or you think that this is the best they can do?
I would definitely like to see a little bit more creativity. I also understand it's early, so maybe they just don't want to outthink themselves. Like, if people are going to say that the play where Caden Wallace got flagged, the unbalanced formation, it's like, oh, you're getting cute. And it's like, that's why I think Gerard Mayo took responsibility, because it's not that it was a bad idea. I think in theory it was fine. It's a different look, but you didn't execute it right. And that does fall on the coaches. I honestly did like a lot that Alex Van Pelt got back to their bread and butter. In the third quarter, he's like, we are not moving the ball the way we want to. Let's pound the rock, do what we do best. He committed to it. They did not stray away, and it worked really well. I thought that was awesome. But at the same time, you can't really justify Demario Douglas having 0 touches in a game that was this close after you'd already said he and Polk were going to be more involved. That part of the game plan I have a huge issue with. But again, I did like the fact that Alex Van Pelt was like, you know what, we need to get back to basics. They were able to do it, and obviously, had a really impressive drive. Unfortunately, they had their field goal blocked, and things went poorly towards the end of it. But I at least like that they did lean on it and actually get to score 1 touchdown. Unfortunately, got stopped after that.
And I still have no problem with Gerard Mayo's coaching job through 2 weeks of this thing, right? I mean, the 4th and 1 decision, maybe you go for that, but that's not like a major gaffe, right? That's
because if they
don't
don't make that, it's a field goal automatically.
So that's not like calling a double timeout or like challenging a play you can't and getting a timeout taken away. There hasn't been any stupid mistakes from Gerard Mayo, which I think is huge going into your second NFL game. Now, again, 4th and 1, you might want to see him go for that, or
also to burn a timeout for 12 men on the field at one point. That was pretty ugly.
And so, and also another, the coaching point, I'll go back to it, but the Caden Wallace being uncovered, right? If you're gonna get cute with that kind of stuff, you have to make sure that it's gonna work. I think of, and when I saw Hunter Henry in the tackle position, all I could think of was that 2014, which the 2014 team was here today, but that 2014 drive against the Ravens where they had all the end man on the line of scrimmage with Human and Shane Vereen, they practiced that all season long. Took it out in the AFC divisional round game, and they knew that they practiced it all year long, and they knew that it was going to work. Now, this is week 2. I don't know how long they've been practicing it, but when you kind of do something like that, you have to make sure it works, because it just bites you in the ass, especially when you're going down and trying to win a football game in the 4th quarter. But Van Pelt's play calling, okay. I think there was more mental mistakes from the players, especially in the secondary. than there was coaching gaffes today. I'm still fine with Mayo's performance.
Like the plan that DeMarcus Covington had. I know there were a couple of times they dropped Keon White and Joshua Uche into deep zones. I kind of joked with Uche. I mean, he wasn't really in the mood to talk, but I kind of joked, like, I don't think you've dropped that far into coverage since college because they haven't really used him in that capacity. The first time they did it, it actually worked. The second time, Geno Smith was like, please don't play with me. And that time he threw it right behind Keon White's ear hole and was able to complete it. But I like the idea of the plan and even the busted coverage. Kyle Duggar acknowledged that was an adjustment that he made. I did like the plan, but it also just got to a point in the game where I think we all felt it. Geno Smith was locked in. Give him a ton of credit. First of all, he mentioned how the Seahawks were using no huddle, not to try to get things fast, but to keep the Patriots personnel groupings on the field, lower the effectiveness of their pressure packages, and be able to know what the defense was doing. Because if it's no huddle, he was mentioning Ryan Grubb was in Washington last year. He brought that college style to the to the Seahawks. And then in the pros, like Gottschall was saying, it's kind of tough with your four-man rush. Like, that's run-stopping personnel. And if you go hurry up and you're in more of a passing situation, then you're going up against a bigger interior that's not as well set to get after the quarterback. Also, I know they mentioned Geno Smith's snap count, and just bottom line, Geno clearly had the defense figured out by the second half. That's going to happen in a game like this where it's so back and forth and you have a smart quarterback. Like, there were times they would try to drop the edge guys, have a blitz from one side and then drop coverage. But Geno Smith kept getting outside of it, extending plays, using his legs, delivering accurate throws. Really, we were saying in the box, like, they're going to have to punch the ball out. They need a turnover, but it's not going to come from Geno. Geno's not putting this ball in harm's way. He's going to make the smart decisions. That's why once they got the ball back, I was like, I don't mind you not going for the 4th and 1 because it would be so catastrophic if it didn't work.
Right.
But at the same time, like, Geno's a very good quarterback, and it's the same feeling that you with, like, people had with Tom Brady for years, where with some quarterbacks you're just like, oh no, like, there's not anything you're going to throw at him he hasn't seen, and he's very effective. So we got to tip our cap to Geno Smith as well.
Obviously, Geno, I know that's not what you're saying. He's not on that kind of level really but like when he's playing this well and he's in a groove like he was today, it almost felt like they were going to get 3 on that drive. And so
when people got mad at the Tyler Lockett DPI and John Jones, he caught it.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter if it was DPI. He caught the ball because it was a well-placed throw from Geno Smith.
Exactly.
What else we want to talk about? Let's say special teams. Didn't have any big returns from Marcus Jones. Actually,
I'm still here.
One solid one early on. Oh, okay. There we go.
No, sorry, guys. I was here. I just couldn't find the button to push myself back to where I wanted to be. Like the DPI thing on the Jonathan Jones again, it was interesting that, Lockett told him that it wasn't. Yeah. That's kind of, funny there. But, the amount of, like, the amount that the defense got carved up a little bit by Geno Smith was slightly alarming for sure. And again, I don't know how much you can tell from your vantage point watching the game, or you need to get to the film, but like, how much is on the DBs here? As you said, you thought Geno had some stuff figured out, but like, how much was just them getting beat?
Honestly, there was like the man beater that they had on the 3rd down to the running back. Like, that was perfect. They knew in a critical situation the Patriots were going to play man. Gottschall knew that they knew. Yeah. I asked him, I was like, did you know it was going to be a man beater? He's like, yeah, it was just a good play by them. A lot of the things that they had effectiveness with, I think it was just zones and Geno being like, yep, I'm just going to keep making the easy throw against man coverage, those back shoulder fades. He was going to those. Those are difficult to defend. We were talking to John Saranides about how difficult it is to defend those because unlike most routes, it starts vertical and then kind of bends at the end when you're not really expecting it because you think the route's already declared and then last minute it turns into something else. So obviously the tape will tell the tale, but I thought for the most part it really wasn't that the defense was bad. It's just that Geno Smith is a smart quarterback. He's seen a lot of defenses and you're not going to rattle him very often. Even when they got pressure, there was a play where Peppers was screaming around the corner. Gottschall pointed that one out. And he was still able to make a tough throw. Last week, even, Geno Smith, for the game winner, he connected with Tyler Lockett right before he was getting hit. Perfect throw right where Tyler Lockett could get it and his defender couldn't. It's just when you give a quarterback that many opportunities, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And that's what Gottschall said. He said, we had to put the game away. We needed to just bury them early on, and we couldn't do it. And again, when you give a quarterback like Geno Smith, who's talented, has a great supporting cast around him, and has seen a lot, if you give him the ball in overtime, it's going to be very, very difficult to stop him unless you make a play on one of his receivers.
The one thing I'll say too, though, is like a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba. I was looking at the stats as you were kind of going off there. This was his best career game. 12 catches, 117 yards.
And that was the matchup we were talking about. Him and Marcus Jones.
This is his first career 100-yard game. I want to say it's his first career double-digit catch game. And now he's only in his second year. It's only his 3rd game in his second year. He did drop one as well. So like, those are guys where I look at this Patriots secondary. I look at DeMarcus Covington, a veteran defensive coach in the NFL, and it's like, that's one of those guys where Jackson Smith and Jigba shouldn't beat you for a buck 17 and on 12 catches. Like, kind of, I don't know. You want to take out your DK Metcalf. You want to take out everyone.
Exactly.
You have this three-headed monster. Yeah, you let JSN beat you, and okay, that's fine. But they also lost the game.
Yeah, but again, it's because of the touchdowns. And those touchdowns had nothing to do. Did JSN? No, that was Tyler Lockett who got the flag. So, yeah, if Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, outside of obviously the long touchdown, you contain those guys. JSN goes for 100 yards. I do not care. You are very rarely going to hold 3 receivers under 100 yards. If it's the third option, that's what Bill Belichick always talks about. Make them play left-handed. They couldn't go to Tyler Lockett with any consistency. They couldn't go to DK with any consistency. I don't care that JSN had his best career game. If you had told me that before the game, I'm like, oh, okay, so they must have done something pretty well. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So I don't really have a problem with it.
I mean, they kind of DK had 10 catches.
Oh, a lot of those he was getting force fed, though.
Yeah, I know.
How many yards did he have? Outside was a 58-yard touchdown. 130. So you take the 58. He would have had under 100 yards.
I guess.
It's not a bad plan.
No, it's not. It's not terrible. But I just, long story short, I wish we saw more out of the defensive backs today.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
you do too. I mean, again, it wasn't terrible, but they didn't do enough to win the game.
And we said if they were going to win, it was going to be because Marcus Jones did struggle against JSN because there was a huge size mismatch.
Right.
Marcus Jones was still competitive, but again, a lot of it, not all of it was against man coverage. Sometimes it's zone. It's hard to know. JSN's one of those guys who wins underneath for the most part anyway. So I feel like that's why it was kind of sneaky. Those yards start to pile up as the game goes on. So honestly, I feel like I'm going to look at the tape and be like, the coverage wasn't that bad. They just had a handful of really bad moments.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, at the end of the day, what's lost in the the snap reaction or the judgment of the conversation we had earlier about passing game limitations. When is it going to be time for Maye? Look, everyone's going to ask that question all the times for multiple reasons. One is you're plodding along at 8 miles an hour and you can't get anywhere, and you got a Ferrari in the driveway that still needs a lot of work, and like maybe the wheels are too slick and maybe the brakes aren't necessarily working on it, but it really goes fast and I want to take it out. Like that urge is going to be there the whole time.
You don't know if it's going backwards or forwards, but it's going to do it really
You got this shiny toy. That's always going to be part of the conversation, but it's not really it. This team, as currently constituted with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, has played 2 competitive football games, which is more than most people expected them to do. And so that's still real. And this game was not only winnable, it's actually file it under should have won game here. And so they can continue to plod along here against a few of the teams that they're playing. And again, you look at this daunting schedule, the Jets coming up ahead,
winnable,
whatever, like
winnable,
not as advertised yet. And San Fran, who the only tape we had on them this year was how freaking good they were against the Jets, goes out and lays an egg today against Minnesota. So all of a sudden,
speaking of score, I think 23-17 or something. Ooh. Speaking of former Jets who have revived their career, Sam Darnold kicked butt today for Minnesota. Geno Smith's out here kicking butt as well.
It's almost like the Jets are a place you just don't want to go as a quarterback under any circumstances.
So this team, if they limit mistake, again, what stinks is when you are the Patriots and you have the personnel limitations they have, you do have to almost pitch a perfect game most days. And that was what was so impressive about week 1 is how well coached and professional that game was and how prepared. So it's almost like, they had a couple mistakes today. You didn't expect that, but that's football. That's going to happen. It's hard to play perfect. But if they do clean it up on that, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I think these next 2 weeks that you're looking at, which looked like LL automatic, aren't necessarily automatic.
Yeah. Also,
regardless who's in at quarterback. Yeah.
I agree. And this kind of going against because it's negative. One sneaky thing that needs to get corrected, Ramondre's ball security.
Oh, yeah.
He fumbled twice in the past 2 weeks. Both of them would have been catastrophic. Now, luckily, those drives turned into touchdowns. But Ramondre's been pretty good about ball security for most of his career. But in 2 weeks in a row with a fumble, like that cannot happen. So, but for the most part, I totally agree. And I think that this is a team that is built where they can, like we said last week, drag you into the mud and say, no, like you're not going to play the kind of style of offense you want to play. You're going to play what we want to play. And I think it's a plan that works. Even if you go back last year to the Chiefs game, like that's a Super Bowl champions. And they were completely in that game until the very end. So every time they go up against these great offenses, I know people like to say you can't win with defense. You can't win running the ball. Devon Gottschalk mentioned, well, The teams in the Super Bowl, they can all run the ball. They all have good defenses. The quarterbacks obviously make the difference. That is the great equalizer, where it's like, yeah, if you have Mahomes or Josh Allen, it's nice to have a run game and a good defense, but they're going to give you a way bigger margin for error than you have with Jacoby Brissett, who's not quite as athletically gifted, doesn't have the arm maybe he used to have. I'm wondering, honestly, now at this point, how much of that has to do with him not going downfield. I don't want to start a storyline because I need to see the tape. But again, I think that they can win this style. But like you said, the margin for error is so slim.
So that's my question. I'll ask you guys, because again, the tape will show you certain things, but going back to last week and then seeing what they did again today in terms of, explosive plays downfield. And my question is, what is it? Based on your, having looked at last week's tape and then just watching again today, is it the offensive line simply not giving you enough time to Jacoby enough time to be able to set his feet and to look downfield? That's option one. Option two, the Patriots have said, our number one thing above all else is to not turn the ball over. So do not press it at all. Take what's there. Don't take any risks, not even 20% risks. If you think it can get picked and you don't see it clean, don't take it. We're much better off as a ball security team. Or three, I'll even go four. Three, he's not seeing him because he's running for his life a little bit. Or four, he sees him but doesn't have enough faith in his own arm to be able to get the ball there and to make those throws. It could be a combination of them, but which is most happening right now with the Patriots' lack of even an attempt to press the ball? Because let's put football X and O aside, from the fan perspective, you do want to see something different because you just want it to be fun again. You want to see them attack and be more aggressive, and you don't want to have to win by 1,000 paper cuts. It just might be what they have to do to stay competitive given what they've got. But it's the NFL. It's the modern day NFL. You've got to figure out whether you can do that or if you want to do that, or you have to at least try to do it. I don't know that it's tenable to not. So what's preventing this from happening right now?
My number one is still the offensive line. I think it all stems from there, John, because I don't think Jacoby's not trying enough, hard enough to push the ball downfield. And I don't think he has in his mind that I can't make mistakes. I think that's his nature. But you saw last week, he almost threw an interception in the end zone. There were a couple times today where he tried to force a throw, or it looked like he was kind of falling backwards and had someone on his ankle, and he would just kind of chuck it at someone's feet. But you couldn't tell if he was trying to get it to them either. It was just a bad throw. And it was like, wait, maybe just throw the ball away and don't try and make a mistake. And we also saw last week, after looking at the film, guys were open a lot of the times. And now, granted, one of the plays where everybody was open, he had time and decided to just check it down. But there were other times where Jalen Polk was open almost all day. And I don't know if he wasn't finding him, but I think he wasn't finding him because of the offensive line, because he wasn't having enough time. So I think that's kind of the crux of it, is that it starts and ends there. And once and if they can figure that out, it might start to mesh a little bit more.
I agree. It's a combination of factors. I think one, it'll help if you get the ball to your receivers. This needs to be an opportunistic passing game, which means when guys are open, you got to hit them. Yeah. It's not going to be perfect. I don't think it's going to be clean. It's going to be ugly. But when you have those open plays, you got to hit them. Sometimes the pressure is going to be there. Sometimes the guys aren't open in time. But I think it's just fair to say that it is a combination of factors. I'm not sure how much it's one or the other. Last week, I think you could definitively say that they left plays on the field because they weren't hitting those open receivers. This week felt a little bit more like the pressure was at fault. But again, when Jalen Polk and Demario Douglas, the same week the coaches are like, oh yeah, we're seeing it. They're open. We're going to get them involved, and they're not really involved. At that point, I'm like, okay, well, I don't even know whether to really believe that or whether it is a situation where it's just the offensive line, because I refuse to believe that Demario Douglas went this entire game and wasn't open.
Yeah. And so I guess that's it, is you're going to be looking and say, where am I getting more, and how can, and how can that happen? And again, it could be anything. It could be Jacoby just taking risks he's not ready to take. It could be some more creativity on play calling. It could be a change at the quarterback position, but we're not talking about that because it's irresponsible and immature, and it's just, nonsense agenda setting. So I'm not going to get into that.
They won last week, and the first thing you asked me on postgame was, should Drake Maye have played? It's like, they won the game, dude. They won the game.
I'll tell you what, I don't care what happens. I don't care what happens after the Jets game. What do you think the first question you're going to be asked is?
Of course. And again, it's
the only thing that matters. I'm sorry.
At the end of the day, you are right as far as Just clip that, John. At the end of the day, you are right. But no, as far
It's
as
the only
John
thing
was
that
right
matters.
T-shirts.
Did you draft a franchise quarterback or not?
Right.
I'm impatient. I want to know now. I can't wait
and
till
it's
Christmas.
understandable.
Yeah.
Right,
The
but they
presents
also
under the tree, guys.
they won week 1, they lose week 2. If they lose week 3, if they lose
What's
week
in the
4, then it
box?
starts. Yeah, then the heat turns up a little bit more, and then you start to actually wonder. And if Jacoby Brissett's playing worse in those games, then it's going to happen. But until it's like we've talked about it, catastrophic, I don't see a reason to rush May out there if they don't think he's ready behind the scenes.
Like, again, this
We
is a
don't know
game
that.
they
We don't
lost
know.
when the defense literally just like wrapped it up, put a nice little shiny bow on it, gave it a little kiss and handed it to the Seahawks and said, hey, here's 6 points. Oh, you thought that was good? Here's 6 more.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I know. Like,
enjoy.
a game
You can't win any game like that for the most part when you don't have a Mahomes or a Josh Allen. Like, that's not going to cut it. So obviously the passing game could be better, but your defense needs to do its job as well, and you can't be giving up 2 touchdowns like that.
Yeah. Again, winnable game. That it's odd that you think that the Patriots are in a position to give games away where they should have won. Because again, we didn't think they should be in a position to control much, and right now they have, done a pretty good job, controlling and staying competitive in 2 games here. Guys, leftover thoughts here. We want to start talking about punters. I absolutely will allow that. But no, I mean, honestly, leftover thoughts and things that kind of stood out. On the positive side, you will say, and again, it was a mixed defensive effort. You're still liking what you're seeing, certainly from Keon.
The run defense was great, John.
White run defense. And so there's definitely some things that can be taken away from this that we're overall positive.
I'll just say that, like I mentioned, the run defense was awesome. They held them to under 40 yards rushing on like 18 attempts. I think they only averaged like a little bit over 2 yards a carry. It was really good on that front. The other thing we talked about them a little bit, but although it was such a heavy tight end game and they didn't get the wide receivers going, Hunter Henry had a career day today. That was his best performance probably of his entire NFL career. I think it's only his first or second 100-yard game, career high 108 yards. So kudos to him, props to him to get that done. And then offensively, overall, it's not great right now, but it is like miles better than anything we saw last season. And I think that's exciting, right?
There was hope. Like, we were sitting there like, oh my God, I have anxiety. I forgot the last time I had anxiety in a football game.
They get the ball back. It's like, oh, maybe there's a chance they do actually go score here. Maybe they are actually going to have a little bit of a methodical drive, because we saw it multiple times out here that they did go down and they scored a touchdown. They went down and scored 2 touchdowns today on long drives, and they did it last week too, once, or maybe I forget how many touchdowns they scored last week. But regardless, it looks more efficient than it did last year. There's actual building blocks to build upon. I know we try and be more positive than some other people, but like there are some positive things to take away from this Patriots offense, and I think that's encouraging.
Yeah, I think the ground game for the offense and the ground defense did what we expected them to do. The run defense, Devon Godshaw told us, when we're on our A game, we rep techniques so much, like, you're not running on us. And I felt that way since last year. No offense has been able to consistently run. The most they gave up was against the Jets last year in the snow, when that game was pretty much already a little bit out of hand. So I think the run defense is really good. The run game, again, they leaned on it. It led to a touchdown drive. That was really promising to see, especially on that drive. I think the defense knew exactly what was coming. They still couldn't stop it. And then defensively, Keon White, man, he's still an absolute terror. If you have a weak link on the inside of your offensive line, they're going to put Keon White on him, and he's going to make that guy look silly. He beat the crap out of Connor Williams on one of those plays. I don't think it was a sack, but it was a good pressure. I think it was one of his sacks. But yeah, Keon White is like one of the headliners for guys and reasons you should be excited. And again, the ground defense and the ground game are good. You just need complementary passing offense. And I think if they can get that, this will legitimately be a team where I think, like, even last week, as bad as they were, no team was coming in here saying, oh, we're going to beat the brakes off the Patriots. Right. Because you have to respect their defense. So I think if they can get that shored up, this will be a team that's much more competitive and more well-respected than what they had last season. But that's a huge if for all the reasons that we outlined.
That's why we watch a complementary passing offense. That's the goal for this season that we're looking.
John, what were
achieve.
you impressed with today? I want to know. What were you impressed with from the Patriots today?
Like I said, the Keon is the first thing. Hunter Henry obviously statistically had a good game, but I also don't think you want Hunter Henry to be the focal point of your offense, because Hunter Henry should be your safety valve, possession receiver, third down guy that you're looking for. I think it's kind of the poor quarterback's, handicap of like, let me just find my tight end over the middle here and let's go to that.
Because he's not Travis Kelce either. He's not a wide receiver tight end. He's a tight end.
He's a tight end. So again, to me, it's the 2 games back to back of overall relatively professional competitive football where we can sit here and say, instead of what a shit show this is in every way imaginable, actually talking about individual moments and mistakes or things that cost a team a game that they were competitive in all game long. It's like I said, it's hard to paint too sunny a picture because again, the offense is really, really rough right now. And that's the thing is like, I don't know where that's going to get better yet. So I'm waiting to see something. And that's where I think that's why I asked that question of which of the things is preventing you from looking there. I think I know this was a question of what was good. I want to see them try before we can determine, because it's not fair to judge, well, Polk isn't much, or Thornton's a bust in year 3, toss him out the window. If you're not going to try and you're not going to get those guys involved and see what you have here. And that's, fine. You want to argue, don't play Drake Maye because you don't want to get him hurt. That's fine. But you got to start to utilize some of the tools in your tool shed. You drafted guys. You want to see them perform a little bit. So it was good to see Polk get that touchdown early. I want to see them try to get him the ball a little bit more and see if you've got a playmaker on their hands. I want to see them kind of stretch it. The stat that kills me of all the stats that we threw out there today is just the wide receiver completions and the one to DeMario here. That it's just simply, it's just not enough. You're not gonna win there. If your receivers are this uninvolved in the game. So I want to see them try. And again, you got a tough one coming up next week, against the Jets there, and you've got Sauce, and it's not like Sauce is going to lock up one guy, but I don't know that it's going to necessarily get better on a short week against the Jets here. So we might, and then you've got the Niners. It's going to take a while before you can see if there's even anything to open up in this offense. And that's kind of what I'm waiting to see here. Because if you have something in those guys, you kind of want to see it. Javon Baker, again, we should point out a healthy scratch 2 weeks in a row. People are going to start clamoring for, hey, throw that kid out there and let's see what he does. I don't know if there's any point if you're not going to try to take some shots here. But I also, like I said, I don't have the answer to the question. I don't know if they can. I don't know if they can get it downfield.
I'll say Keon White's going to have, 3 sacks, 2.5, 3 sacks on Thursday. Oh. Aaron Rodgers can't move. It's going to be it's going to be bad for them.
Aaron Rodgers is not who people thought he would be this year. The idea, we talk about how CJ Stroud broke the mold in terms of how people view rookie quarterbacks. Tom Brady obviously did that for aging quarterbacks, and the idea that Aaron Rodgers would be anything more than anything more than passable in his age 38 season, coming off of an Achilles injury, might have been overshooting a little bit based off of what you thought he could be, because he's not Aaron Rodgers anymore. He can't move. He can't do the things that Aaron Rodgers does.
He can't move anymore, but he's still Aaron Rodgers. Like, let's not.
He's Aaron Rodgers in the sense that Aaron Rodgers is still a guy who's an accurate quarterback, but he's not that guy. He's not that guy
he's not like
anymore.
The play extender that he used to be for sure. But if you let him in the pocket, right. But if you
he was Patrick Mahomes
pocket, he's still that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So,
yeah.
So we'll see there. I think they are going to work him again. Here, you want something nice from me? I'll tell you this. As Mr. You got to draft receivers, which is what I've said after every single draft for the last 12 years. You cannot argue. And again, people are crapping over Christian Gonzalez here for a touchdown that wasn't necessarily his fault. You cannot argue with the 2 top picks that Bill Belichick made as his final act here, his final defiant act of refusing to draft offensive players.
Oh, I remember getting shat on for that take last year. That's crazy.
It was still a bad.
I wasn't like, I can't wait. That's crazy.
All right, but where's Marte Mapu? Where's Marte?
Third round pick.
I think you were
more get healthy.
You were more excited for Marte Mapu than
I was very excited for Marte. He's not been healthy. That's not my fault. I didn't hurt him. Let him get back on the field first.
It's still Taylor. They still could have had a good draft if they went receiver. Yeah, you'd be mad right now with Zay Flowers. You'd be pissed off if Zay Flowers was here.
I even said at the time, if Gonzo was on the board and they did take Zay, I would have been a little upset because I don't think.
Or Addison. Well, Addison's had his problems.
I never liked Addison.
If they had gone,
I love Zay.
Yeah, if they had gone receiver, they could have had a good draft.
If the Commanders did what they should have done and taken Gonzo instead of Forbes, I would have been Zay Flowers all day, all night. Like I would have been furious if they hadn't taken him then. But yeah, I was cool with Gonzo. I was like, I didn't think he was going to be here. I kept saying in the mock drafts that it was like getting a shiny Mewtwo. Like, why is he even still here?
When we were doing our Patriots beat mock drafts that offseason, if Christian Gonzalez got to pick 14, we weren't allowed to take him because we thought he was going to be gone. So we had to reshuffle. And so then we were sitting there at 17 that night. It was like, you have to take him. You have to take him. It doesn't matter. Worked out pretty good, I'd say.
You did. So that's where we are here again. The Patriots lost a game they absolutely could have won, 23-20. It's a short turnaround with the Jets coming up on Thursday night at the Meadowlands. Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles will be there along with the whole CLNS gang bringing you coverage. There will be a post-game show late, but after the game from the Meadowlands, absolutely. So make sure that you tune in and check it out with us. Once again, we'll let you know our sponsors for the show. As always, Prize Picks. Still got time. You want to get in on those Sunday picks. Cadlick's going to put his out a little bit here. Still time to sign up. Not just NFL, tons of sports you can get on this daily fantasy app. $5 gets you 50. That's all you have to do. Sign up, use that code CLNS, and you will get $5. Play gets you $50 instantly in your account. That is Prize Picks. And then, of course, Game Time. You want to get in on your favorite shows or favorite games. Download that Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. As we said, the Patriots lose. Much more coming up from CLNS. Check out the website for Tayler and Mike's write-ups on the games, as well as continued coverage on the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel. Those guys will put up some more stuff talking about the game and all the post-game reaction. We will flood the channel, and everyone will be back with a host of podcasts tomorrow. So again, thank you guys for watching. We will say good evening, and we will see you
Thanks,
all
everyone.
later.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.